Once upon a time, two boys grew up playing hockey in the village of Terrace, British Columbia. One of them went on to play in the National Hockey League. The other became a comedian. Now, one flies planes and coaches youth hockey. The other is still a comedian and owns newsstands. This is their podcast, Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian.
Hello, Jeff. My name's Ian Bagg. The show is called Enjoying Orange Slices with Jeff and Ian. How's your day?
It's good. I'm out in the Midwest. Some of the finest people. I'm in Chicago today.
Never heard of it.
No, I know. I came out to scout the Blackhawks, but they're out of town.
That's really funny. That's our podcast right there. Oh. Yeah. I sent a message to one of the Golden Knights to come see me this weekend when I was in Vegas, and they were out on the road. So I do the exact same thing. I love it.
Yeah, but you didn't even get a response, and you were all hurt until Mallard stepped in and chirped you.
Mallard had to save me. We'll talk about that later. Let's talk about we don't have much time, so let's talk about the trade deadline. It's ticking. March 8th. And then how many games after the deadline is there?
You're going to be somewhere between 18 and 22, I think. Maybe Edmonton. I think Edmonton still is like 23 or 24. I'm guessing they're playing tonight or tomorrow. So you're going to be 18 to 20 games, roughly 18 to 22. So I don't know.
Does that give a guy enough time to fit into a team?
That's a good question. Like if you look at Lindholm in Vancouver, when he first got there, he was like a house on fire. And then he's really like, I watched him the other night. You were at the game, the Ducks game, and he's a hell of a player, but he just hasn't found his way with that team yet. And I'm a big proponent of moving the trade deadline up. I think you give some of the teams that aren't going to make it, you give them more time, and and I don't like that. I think it's kind of like, hey, let's make the deals earlier. Let's see what can. Yeah.
I'm gonna interrupt him. My wife says, "You interrupt Jeff so long. I'm so mad at you how much time." I'm like, Jeff's never been interrupted before. It's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you move it. Maybe that makes it the punishment for your team not doing well. If you move the trade deadline up, teams are punished, right? So you're getting rid of you're having to make the decision of who you're getting rid of earlier, which kind of punishes you. So maybe what would you think? January? I think halfway through the season would be perfect for a trade deadline.
Yeah, you know what? You might get some pushback there, but I definitely think you could go into February. I mean, I think the trade deadline should have been 2 weeks ago minimum, middle of February, just after the All-Star break. And the reason is I know these guys make millions of dollars and all this, but here we are playing the game. Let's just use Noah Hannafin. Noah Hannafin now, and my nephew, I think it was Kalen or somebody said, maybe it was you, the players have so much more power now because Hannafin's basically said where he wants to go. And now it's up.
I didn't say it.
I think it was Kalen. Might have been Kalen. Good job, Kalen. But he's right. And so these guys have so much more power on where they want to go now. So they do, some of them have a say. Like supposedly it's down, Vegas was in there and for Hannafin, but now it sounds like Florida, Tampa, or Boston. And my thing on it is the other guys are all kind of getting their world upended at the end of the season. I know they make a lot of money. And in some cases they're going to a much better team, which is good. But I got moved one year right around the trade deadline. And then we went on a 3-week road trip. And so it was total pandemonium. So you got to, uproot stuff. If you're a single guy, it's in his early 20s, maybe not as big a deal, but it's still a big deal. I just think you should put the team's feet to the fire sooner, get this done 2-3 weeks ago, and then you focus on the run for the roses. You're running for the finish line, getting your playoff seeding and getting your team in the best position it can to be competitive in the playoffs. And I mean, we saw it at the draft. There's another place that they make trades, but I'd like to see it moved back. or
So
earlier.
when you got traded at the trade
Mhm.
deadline, and so this is good that we have somebody that's been traded on the show. How is it mentally? Is it just like, oh well, we're going someplace else? Or are you questioning everything you did for the team that you've been traded from?
Well, there's different reasons for this stuff. I found out on the
Yeah,
bottom.
when you're in your early 20s, you know.
Yeah, well, the one thing is you kind of don't want to start getting traded around if you can help it. But today, when back in the day when I played, now it's a lot different. I'm not saying there's not going to be a flurry of activity on the trade deadline, but one of the things is back then when I played, the trade deadline, and they used to fax all the trades in. So
Yeah.
you know what I
Some
mean?
guys
It
could get
took
left
forever.
out.
Yeah. So sometimes you'd be like, it'd be 4 in the afternoon, and trade deadline was 3 hours ago, and you're like, "Hey, just getting around to you got traded." So I kind of look at it; it's a little bit different. They used to wait till the last minute to pull the trigger, and so on a couple of deals, I guess, I don't know if you want to call it a throw-in, but I was definitely not the main part of it. I'll give you an example. When I went to, which was earlier in the season, I got traded with Adam Graves, Joe Murphy, Peter Klima, to Edmonton for Jimmy Carson and Kevin McClellan. Okay, that was earlier in the year. I was injured at the time. Edmonton wanted all four of us. I wasn't able to get my game up to speed or get healthy soon enough to be able to make an impact with them, which was unfortunate. Some of these guys, it's going to be a great opportunity for them. But when you go from prospect, which is the people that originally had their eyes on you, to suspect, then you know you kind of need some things to move in your orbit in your favor. And I just think with going at the deadline like that, um, you're going to see some young guys moving, and these guys are prospects. And if Noah Hannafin gets traded out of Calgary, the Calgary Flames, whoever the first one or two guys back in that for them, they're going to want those guys to be a big part of their team. You're probably going to get a high draft pick, well, or first rounder, and you might get two or three other guys. So what you're asking for is as a young guy getting traded to a team that might not make the playoffs is an opportunity to go in and play in their organization and have a chance to play with them right away. That might not be the case for some of these guys. And no one stuck their neck out for you originally to be drafted. So as you start moving on and you start getting traded a couple times, unless you're one of the central figures, it gets harder and harder to kind of kick down that door and play for that NHL team. At least back in the day, it was.
I'm curious. I'm curious to know whether Lindholm in Vancouver, we brought up earlier, gets traded again because he's become a little suspect, right, with that team. And he's not got any injuries. He's just something's upstairs not clicking. It seems like it's.
Well, he's been in Calgary a long time. He was the number one boy in Calgary. You think about it. This guy, what did he have? 48 goals last year. Great player. He's got the extra pressure of being a UFA, which he wants to get paid, but he's going to play behind Pettersson and JT Miller in Vancouver. He was playing behind nobody in Calgary. He was the top dog, right? So it's an interesting dilemma to be in. He's probably had his ice time cut a little bit. Maybe that's
You think it was cut by? Do you think it was cut by 11.6 minutes?
If it was cut by that much, he'd be really sour. But let's just say he's getting 3-4 less shifts a night than he was in Calgary. And they were talking about after the trade deadline moving him up with and putting Pettersson on the wing. The only thing is a guy like Pettersson, I kind of like him in the middle a little bit more. He's not, and talking about Vancouver, you say, well, maybe they move him. Maybe they move him for some size up front because Vancouver's not really big. Their forwards aren't really big. They're quick, right. and Vancouver's had a great year. But if you look at LA the other night, kind of wore them down a little bit. Edmonton's pretty big team as well. Vegas, If they can get the ship righted, they got some guys that are bigger. So I think Vancouver's going to be in the market for some bigger players. And the question you ask yourself is, if we put Lindholm as our number 3 center, that looks really good, right, on paper. But does it
Right.
look really good when we hit the ice? So you've got 2 of the top centermen in the league, and Miller and Pettersson, and then you had your third line was Teddy Bluger with Joshua and um, Garland, which was awesome. So you can convince yourself really quick. You're like, hey, Lindholm looks really good as a third line center and Bluger as a fourth line. But then you start looking on your wings and you're not that big. And so Jordan Greenway is a guy's name that's been palmed around. Guy 6'5", 6'6". Now you start looking for some bigger wingers. You're like, well, who's the trade chip we have? Well, we got this guy. Because if you trade with Buffalo right now, a guy like Lindholm, chances are he's getting moved in a 3-way deal out of Buffalo to some other playoff team. And so Vancouver might not be the fit for him yet. And that's why I like the fact that they went for him earlier than, and they got time to kind of figure this out.
That's Rutherford and Alvin's MO, right? Is that they do their trades earlier than the deadline to see how people fit in.
Yeah, I again, getting back to what we talked about earlier, I know it's exciting around trade deadline day, but trade deadline day would be just as exciting if you moved it back a little bit. I know there's some more teams that have fallen out of the bottom.
It doesn't matter when it is. It's exciting. It's still deadline day, even if it is if it is in December, it's still that day.
Yeah, it is. And here's the other thing about it. With the way Vegas is free falling right now, I mean,
they're falling.
They are. They're like Tom Petty said, that Vegas is. So if you're St. Louis, if you're Calgary, if you're Seattle, you are within. St. Louis is with 6, and Calgary and Seattle are I think within 7 or 8. I know that's still quite a gap, but
still a cushion.
If you go on a heater like Nashville's won like 8 in a row or whatever, all of a sudden you're not back. And if Vegas can't get it back going, or even if they play 500 and you win 8 in a row, you're still gaining. And yeah, you're running out of runway, but at the same time, you have to look at your team. Like I know you were telling me, I think last night or something, that Seattle held out Bjorkstrand. I think it was Bjorkstrand. And I'm like, I don't know. I think Seattle's still on the outside looking in, but they won last night. They're reeling Vegas in because Vegas is 2-7-1 in their last 10. So even if you're a 500 team, which 500 is probably not going to do it for those teams, but if you could be 7-3 and they're 2-7 or 2-8 or 2-7-1, you're doing pretty darn well. Like if you said to Calgary, hey, listen, or one of those other teams, you got 20 games left, you're going to go 14-6. Will you take that? Of course they're going to take it. I don't know of a team in the league that wouldn't take it. So, if you get going, there's a lot of money in those playoff games, and who knows who you're going to end up with. You're probably going to get either Dallas or Vancouver in the first round as a wild card, I'm guessing, because that's kind of who we went with, maybe Winnipeg. So you're getting a really, really good team, but you're still getting at least 2 home dates. And if you're Vegas, you're not thinking about just making it. You're thinking about trying to make a run, but you gotta get the anchor back in the boat because it's dragging you down.
As we said every year around this time, you just got to get in. Different league. As soon as the playoff starts, it's a different league. Everything gets a little heavier, a little dirtier. So you just got to get in.
Well, look at Florida last year. It got all the way to the finals. He kind of ran out of gas against Vegas. But yeah, everyone's getting bigger and stronger. And all of a sudden, the big, strong guy is, and heavy players are in vogue again, right? And so I would look for some people that maybe aren't like the superstars that people might not expect to get moved at the deadline, so these teams can bulk up and get ready for the big spring fling.
The big spring dance down by the river. Oh boy, it's going to be exciting. Let's see what else we got going on this week. And by the way, we brought it up, $11.6 million. Pettersson signs in Vancouver. Little bouncing turbulence there for a while that apparently they were looking into trading him to Carolina. I think that was just both of them trying to play chicken with each other. I think that's as far as that got, right?
Yeah, I think they probably asked about it, or they were asked about it. See, when you start getting teams calling you, that stuff leaks out. I don't think they ever had any, I shouldn't say any inkling of wanting to trade him, but you and I both thought 11.6 was a great deal for Vancouver. I thought
Well,
I thought he could have
here,
got between 12 and 14 on the open market. And 14 obviously being on the higher side, but I think he was definitely could have got over 12 somewhere else. And I thought he might have got 12 in
which
Vancouver.
is interesting, and which is interesting if he could have got 12. The fact that he signed for 11.6 made me go, why did it take this long? Like that was a weird thing that he took
Yeah.
that long to sign it. I'm like, what's that? I guess he was just wanting to see what else was out there. I don't know, but it's still a weird thing. But I think he's a weird dude. I really do. Like when you watch him, he seems like he's a loner, right? And
Mhm.
he thinks a little bit different. Even when they're I don't know, he just seems like a weird dude to me. And I don't know him or anything like that. I got nothing there. He just seems a little awkward to me.
Yeah. Well, I think they did the right thing. I love the
Absolutely.
player, but
Yeah.
yeah, and I mean he can walk. I really think. I mean, he said he said he's had some issues before, like as far as mental health and that. And I just, he's talked about that. That was last year when things weren't going great, and Bruce Boudreau came in and kind of helped get him back going again. I think, and now Tockett's been just fantastic with that whole roster, but I mean, when you have that amount of pressure on you, it affects people a little bit differently. Like JT Miller seems to be the kind of guy like, yeah, give it to me. Whereas,
Right.
Pedersen
Everybody's
is like,
different. Everybody's
I
different.
didn't, he's like, I didn't mean to be this good, but he is. This guy could, this guy could be,
I didn't mean to be this good.
yeah, but he is, and he could be a generational type player by the end of this. You watch this guy play, which you saw him play the other night, and he wasn't standing out, but he does stuff that's just, you know
Yeah.
what, got to be just so hard to play against. And one of the things that's happened in Vancouver now is JT Miller's kind of gone, yeah, I'm here, and Quinn Hughes has gone, yeah, I'm here, and the other guys have all stepped up, and I think it's kind of helped
Well,
him,
I went
his comfort zone as he's growing into being a professional. Well worth it. And I'll tell you what, I take the kid on my team any day. I think he's just a
absolutely.
special player. And look out.
It's interesting you say that because when I went to, and this is the last we'll talk about the Vancouver Canucks, people are like, well, there's other teams in the league. And I'm like, I had no clue. Anyways,
And not down in Long Beach. There's not.
not in Long Beach. So I went to the game the other night and it was a social event that I went to. So I missed the first two periods. I only got to watch the third period. But at the end of the day, it was 31-18 shots, Vancouver over Anaheim. And I know it was Anaheim, and Anaheim's not having the best year, but they were frustrated playing against Vancouver. Vancouver was not letting them get much going on, and Vancouver seemed to control the puck for the most of the part of the game. So the period
Mhm.
that I watched. So, anyways, I'm tonight. I'm going to the Los Angeles Kings, or this would be so. Wow, Lou's on the balcony yelling at people. Um, I'm going to the game, Los Angeles and Vancouver, so I'll have an update too. Los Angeles, I got a question about Los Angeles. Do you really think they needed to fire a coach? And this leads into Lindy Ruff being fired the other day.
Right. So we both like Todd McClellan, so we got to be careful on bias here, right?
But I also
I
like
just
the new
think,
coach. I also like the new
yeah.
coach a lot.
Oh no, I mean Jim Hiller's done a great job, and he's got them back going. Here's again, this isn't so much about Tom McClellan, it's about the way the league is wired now. Like if you look at LA, okay, and I know we haven't talked about anyone in the East, but we can bring these teams in. Boston, Florida, Tampa still, the Rangers, out west, Edmonton, Vancouver, Vegas, LA. These teams, Winnipeg, Colorado, Dallas, these teams are trying to win today. They're not trying to build for next year.
Right. They're not
Like,
winning for, yeah.
like if you look at Montreal, you're like, oh, what's going on there? Well, you know what? They're trying the long term build. Like, they're trying to get their young guys and get them in their lineup. That
30,
other
20, 30,
perennial,
26 is when they're building for.
yeah, the other perennial, Toronto's another team that's trying to win today. The other perennial juggernaut who played great last night, the Columbus Blue Jackets. these are teams that are looking longer term. Well, they're on the outside looking in. These other guys, the rich are getting richer. And I give Winnipeg a great tip of the hat and to Chevy for being able to retool this thing as fast as they can. And so here's what happened to Todd, and it happened to Lindy too, because New Jersey's trying to win today. Even they're like, oh, well, they've got all these young guys who are building, and they're like, BS. We're
We're
not.
here.
Yeah, there's no moral victories, and so I think when Vegas came into the league and the wheeling and dealing and the win now, I think that's morphed over to these other teams. There's going to be some unbelievable teams out in the first round. And so what I think LA was doing is they're like, hey, we're going to slip right out of this thing if we're not careful. Vegas doesn't want to slip out of it either, but they have a little bit of capital because of their success.
Right.
But Todd got let go because of the way the system works, I think, now in the league, not because he wasn't going to be able to get them turned around and get them in the playoffs. We all think they were a playoff team, even though they were on a slide. They felt they had to do something. You can't fire the players, or not all of them, so you fire the coach.
Oh, the old saying. But Lindy Ruff
Yeah.
was dealing with a lot of injuries, and to trade away of two pretty important defensemen, and then one of the defensemen that you re-sign, Hamilton, comes down with an injury, right? So you're missing three giant pieces, and then he's got no goaltending. He's trying to put it all together. I don't know. I think he's probably relieved that he got fired.
Well, they just re-upped him last October, so he's going to be doing just fine financially. But Lindy can't stop the puck, right? Not from behind the bench, and so that's a problem. New Jersey, again, not the biggest team, okay, but they've got some unbelievable skill. So they're kind of in a problem, but they couldn't get anyone to stop the puck for them. So they had the deal done with Markstrom supposedly, but then, and how do you feel if you're Craig Conroy in Calgary? You got the deal done. Oh, there, I just about flipped out of the picture. I thought I'd just adjust that. And they had the deal done with New Jersey supposedly, and ownership in Calgary said no to the deal. And I'm like, well. I mean, here's the thing. Too many chefs spoil the broth. I've always thought in Calgary, they kind of got this ownership group. They've had some success, but in Edmonton, they're not going to having a roundtable meeting.
Yes.
If the owner wants to get in there.
I truly believe
that.
Saying? Yeah, it's got to be one guy. You can't be going to 8 different people. Ugh. That's a movie. That's movie television shit. That is that, oh, what do you think? Oh, what do you think? Oh, what do you think? Everybody just, and people, I don't know. Yeah, that's bad. That's bad for sports.
Markstrom, who's been nothing but the true professional, his time in Vancouver and Calgary.
Just a handsome man.
Yeah, he hasn't had the easiest ride. Like there's a lot playing in those two markets. That's all they talk about all day. And then all of a sudden, he supposedly says, yeah, okay, I'm ready to move on. And they pull the rug out from underneath him. So he's disgruntled. What are you thinking if you're other guys on that team? Like, what direction are we going? Who's on first? Who's behind the wheel? It's, Craig Conroy and bringing in this new way of doing business. And then all of a sudden, one of his first big trades, they're like, nah, we know better. That's basically what they said. We know better.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be interesting to watch how they progress in Calgary.
That in Calgary too, the ownership was, well, I talked to my buddies at Beer League, and this is what we should do.
Well, I don't know what that when this stuff starts to trickle out, and you like I said, too many chefs spoil the broth. So hey, but let's what else you want to talk about? Do you want to move on to, because people don't want to hear our inaccurate commentary much longer.
They want to talk to. So we'll talk about one more NHL. How long we've been talking? How long have we been chit chatting?
I don't know, 20 minutes.
Okay, then we'll talk a little bit more NHL. The ladies hockey is running rampant. They're selling out all over the place. So good for them. Is it? And I feel like I'm a little stupid here. So are they starting to pull the ice out in Canadian towns, small towns? Because a lot of people out there that listen to this podcast are not from small towns. In small towns, they don't keep the rink going year round. They actually pull the ice out and then put it back in September, October. Is it March when they start pulling the rinks
Yeah,
out?
the ice is going to start coming out here pretty soon. I would say by the middle of April, a lot of these small towns will have their ice out. A lot of the reason is because it costs so much to keep the ice in, and then they go, well, we got to spend our money in other areas of the town as well. And this goes back to the conversation you and I had probably a couple of years ago about, okay, if we're going to pull the ice out, that's fine, but how can we provide resources not only for the hockey players, for the kids that play golf, for the kids that are volleyball, for the kids that play football, baseball, badminton, whatever it is. How can we provide resources so these kids can still get the training, even though in the summertime that, especially with hockey, you need the ice. Well, what other kind of resources can we put together? And what kind of resource center can we have? Almost like a place for the kids to work out, or it would be a place for the kids to work out. But you can wear a lot of hats there, and you got a place for kids to go. And especially in these small communities, they just do not have the same access to the ice that they do in the bigger communities. And hockey is a very expensive sport, as we know. So it's kind of another way of doing it, but I don't think that it would be a poor way of doing it. Yeah, I'd love to see the ice stay in longer, but I get it. A small community like we grew up in, it's tough for them to keep the ice in year round. But in these smaller communities, I think, and this is something that needs to be thought of a while ago, but it needs to kind of go into fast forward, is how can we put a resource center in to get for all of our kids, and then have the bands in there, have a place to work on shooting the puck, like a shooting machine. Yeah, it takes a few bucks to put one of those in, but you know what? A place for the kid to work on a shot, a place for them to work on a stick handling, a place to go where they're safe and no different. You can train a lot of these sports very similar as young kids, and it's an activity, a place to go, a discipline, and some structure. Easier said than done, I know, but if you don't live in a big city, it's tough for a kid growing up in a small community, not only in Canada but in the States, to get to the rink. And I can tell you right now about our Sweet Cam, right? Sweet Cam down there, he's in Portland. They've got kids coming up from Eugene, which is a bigger city, Redmond, Bend, these small communities around the area coming in for spring tryouts, spring hockey. These parents are driving their kids in there because obviously the resources aren't as plentiful in their community. And you could say the same thing about a lot of places in Canada. And so, anyways, go around in a circle on that, but I'd love to see something come up where you could
see the ice stay in. See the ice stay.
Oh,
in
I'd love
till
to see it,
like
but short of that.
May or June, and then come back. I do. I also do believe. And let's get into it. So I do believe kids need to do other things than just play one sport. Like
Right. I mean, you could do that with that resource center. We talked about that years ago. I know those aren't free, but what are your kids in your community worth, right? And a lot of smaller communities have some area, but they don't have the tax base, right?
It's basically very few kids are going to be professional hockey players, right? So, but you want every kid to be a great human. So what do you do that creates that? Look at me. I tell jokes. Anyways, I was in
and you're
Vegas.
a great human. So
I'm a horrible human. I'm a bad human. I yell at everybody. Check this out.
You were chirping. Yeah, you were chirping the other night.
Yesterday,
pretty good.
Yesterday I come out of the
Tell me about it.
Yesterday I come out of the house, right? And there's a guy in a black tracksuit playing with the neighbor's knob on the door on the apartment, the complex beside us, right? The little cottages. And I go, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, I'm putting up signs for the rental office." And I go, "Well, why are you trying to open the door?" He goes, "I'm from the rental office." And I'm like, "No, man, why are you trying to open the door?" He had put signs up there, but he's just like giving me all this attitude. I'm like, "I've caught you trying to open the door. If you actually work for this place, you don't try to blow me off. You just say, 'Hey, my name's so and so, blah blah,' right?" It was so weird, this conversation I have with this guy who apparently does work for this place, but has no right to be trying to open somebody's door, right? So anyways,
Well,
And I was just
Okay.
like, this is how you get a baseball bat across the face, you piece of shit. You know, like
Oh
seriously,
boy.
don't.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a little I was a little
Oh,
fired
look
up.
at that. I went right off the screen. That was
I
so
know.
hard hitting.
I shocked you so
I
bad.
know.
Anyways,
I just wish
don't.
Cab was there to tell you you're not on stage right now. Hey, did you? I
No,
would have
she
loved
actually,
if he'd have looked at you and said, "You're not on stage right now."
she
Sorry.
said, she said, calm down, Grandpa. Well, calm down, Grandpa. What is, when you look at other people, neighborhood watch, Grandpa neighborhood watch. That's what she called me. Calm down, Grandpa neighborhood watch. And I was like, eh. And then we had a good old fashioned punch session, me
You
and
were
her.
just mad
Get the
because he was
boxing glove
chirping
out.
you back. He was chirping
No,
you back,
he
and you
wasn't.
were like,
He wasn't even chirping. Good. Have a good day, sir. He didn't even chirp. I'm
with
like,
a black tracksuit on. That's pretty cool.
yeah,
That's
and I
pretty
was just like,
professional.
yeah, I was just like, oh, got your best hoodie on there, you piece of shit. Anyways,
Wow, you got all revved up,
I
and
was
you had a good
all bent out
weekend.
shit.
You had a great weekend.
I had a great weekend.
You did, right?
I got to stay at the
We did.
Sharples. I got to stay at the Sharples new house, and it overlooks Las Vegas, and it is,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
gonna be honest, it is tits. It is great. Your new place is fantastic. Congratulations on that. And then I did 3 shows, but not only did I do 3 shows, I flew in, took a Uber right over to the rink. Jeff's out there coaching. I put on my skates and I jumped on the ice.
And and then what did you do? You skated around in the far end for like 15 minutes.
That's
Well,
good.
I'm like, is he ever going to come down and help us out?
As I know, I was like, nope, I'm going to figure out my. I had two. I talked to Millard was there, and I talked to Millard. I said, "Aren't you supposed to have 4 edges? Because I think I only got 2 edges right now." And he said, "Well, why don't you go help Jeff out?" And I said, "No, not for a bit. I'm not getting chirped. I turn into a 14-year-old kid whenever I'm on the ice with him." So
Hey, when Lord Bagg came on the ice, Mallard came in, and Mallard's making his comeback. Mallard's been on the shelf. He's been on the IR for at least
yeah,
3 weeks. And the Vegas Golden Knights broadcast has it's taken a village to keep this thing going while he's been gone. He's the best there is. He's so cool. So when he heard Lord Bagg was coming in, he wasn't gonna. He usually will skate with us. He didn't skate. He was just on the bench. And so when Lord Bagg gets on the ice, he starts clapping. And Lord Bagg wouldn't come down because he
well, come
he didn't
on.
have your cheaters on. You couldn't see who it was.
I didn't have. It's like I don't know this. I don't know who this guy is that's clapping at me, but I'm not going down there. Anyways, his first trip was, hey, how many different teams are you wearing? So I was wearing a King's helmet, a King's helmet, a Saskatoon Blades hoodie, and Winnipeg Jets pants. And he goes, "How many different teams you wearing?" I said, "Darren, I only play for one team, and that is called the Freeze. I play for the Freeze. If you give it to me and it's free, I play for your team." But it's
Exactly.
great. It was
Yeah.
great. I love going on the ice with you. Just see how you work with the kids. Just for those people that don't know, Jeff works with teenagers and over 8 and up to about 16, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So U8 mostly they call it U10 now. Used to have other names for these divisions, but they call them U10, U12, U14, U16. So the majority of the kids are somewhere U12 to U14 and U16. We will get the odd U10, but it's a lot of fun. Mallard comes out and helps, and when Lord Bagg's in town, he comes out as well, and
I pass some
it's a good
pucks.
time. Yeah, it's a good
I
time.
pass some pucks. I pass some pucks. Jeff gives me some pointers. Get your inside arm away from your body. You will never make that pass if you don't do that. But I watch these kids, and
Yeah.
you've got to see yourself. Their coordination is so impressive for their age. And I know you look at them at a different way. You want them to be professional hockey players, but even these kids that aren't even going to play junior or college have such amazing ability. It's got to be at least 4 or 5 times better than what any of our kids had when we were that age.
Well, and I just want to stop you there. I don't care if they play professional hockey. I want them to have fun to start off with, and I want them to be able to
Want to,
the old story, the harder I work, the luckier I get. But you also, as a kid, yeah, work hard. Well, what does that mean? Right.
right.
So trying to help them understand why we're doing what we're doing, right? A lot more chatting and connecting. And back in the day, how many times did we get on the ice? Okay, down and back,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
so I felt pretty fortunate because my dad and Vic Zapperzan, Ray Flaherty, Les Thornton, and other dads, Fred Philpott was our off ice guy. We were kind of ahead of the curve with a lot of this stuff. But nowadays, like the big thing I tell the parents is if they're having a good time, that's the number one thing. So I'm not out there to beat anybody down. I'm just trying to help them, we trying to raise them up. And if they enjoy it and they're doing well, then the chances of them being able to go maybe one day play college and play a game and get 4 years of schooling might be there, but it might not be. And I think the biggest thing that we are seeing, and you talked about it, is we've got this surge, and we talked about it before, these kids coming, their coordination and their athleticism is amazing. But you know what? Trying to learn the other nuances of the game is kind of what, where people with experience or been around a while can maybe help them out a little bit. And so that's kind of what I think we did on Friday, right? We were out there together for a couple hours, and sometimes it might be just something you say to them, and you do say a fair amount to them when you're out there.
I teach. I let them know. I say, what's this drill we're doing? I don't understand. You know what drill? I notice every drill's 3 to 5 minutes, right? That's what you do. You do it twice. It's 3 to 5 minutes. The one drill that I really enjoyed that I wish had been part of when we played, and you may say, "Oh, we did that one." Well, we didn't. Was you take a pass, you do a cut, and then you take a shot, and then there's another shot that you're not another pass that you're not expecting, and you're just trying to get the shot off.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's such a great way that second shot where you don't expect the puck's coming at you and you don't know when it's coming at you is such an important way to play the game. Like, be ready at all times. But it was fun. You could tell it was a fun drill because they're trying to crank it off the crossbar or whatever. They're trying to just like get it through the net.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you it's even more fun with a goalie.
Yeah, well, when we get Mallard out there, he's been awesome. When he can come out, right? So it is a lot of fun with the goalie, but with a goalie, you have to slow down a little bit. Because if you, depending on how many kids you have out there, but the big thing is, you can speed up or slow down. But I find the biggest thing is, and it's not only in hockey, but I think it's in life, but in hockey, next play. What's the next play? That's why we throw the second shot in at them after they've handled the puck, they've made a pass, they've handled the puck, they shoot. Next play. What's the next play? It's like next shift, right? When you get back to the bench,
but it's also being prepared for the also being prepared for the unexpected, right? That's life.
Mm-hmm.
Things come at you that it's not coming from the perfect place.
No,
right?
And here's the thing: it's like being on the freeway. You get cut off by one guy. Well, you might get cut off. Oh, hey, I'm getting so excited, I'm throwing stuff. You might get cut off by the second guy too, right? So
right, yeah.
Expect, like, when you see something going on in front of you, it might be coming from the side or somewhere else. So it's just trying to be situationally aware, I think, and I think that bodes well off the ice too, right? So, but it was a good time, and so Mallard's coming back this week. My timer just went off, so we got to wrap here pretty quick. But
I got two.
You want to
two
talk
things
about? Yeah, talk about
two things. It was the windiest it's ever been in Vegas, and it's always windy there. It's just so windy. When we were driving, there was a noise coming off the car because there was
just before we got blown off the road.
Yeah, it was hitting us on the side. It was and I was like, oh my goodness, we're going over, right? So and then taking off when I flew out on Sunday. That plane was in the air, probably 4 feet into rolling down the runway. So it was pretty cool. And then the shows were what was it? Wise Guys downtown. John Wynn was with me. Friday night, it was the drunkest crowd I've ever had at a 7 o'clock show. They were just hammered. They were NASCAR people and they were hammered. Oh my God, but they were so much fun. We learned a lot. Velcro can still be used on a wallet, even if you're 55. Saturday night, I want to talk about Friday night. So we went out and had a bite after the show, which was great. And we went to this Soul Bellies barbecue and we had some barbecue there, and I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was Carrie Ann's like, it was better than Austin when you had barbecue in Austin. I was like, it was way better. Like the pulled pork was way better. Anyway, and then Saturday night, the crowd was drunk, but they weren't as drunk as the night before. But on the Late Show, I had a lady's husband give me a power cord for her oxygen machine and asked me to plug it in. It was
Oh,
it was so funny.
that's
It
the
was
greatest thing I've ever seen. So LB's up there in the middle, Lord Bagg's up doing his spiel, and it's getting towards the end of the show, right? And I
yeah.
could see the lady fanning herself. So it's like, oh, she must be laughing so hard, but I think she was trying to get some air. Then all of a sudden, her husband gets up, and you said something to him, and he's, I got to go get some oxygen. So he went out to the car, got the tank, plugged it back in, and they were in like the second or third row. So Lord
He pulls
Bags up
up
doing. It's one of the greatest things I've ever seen. She's
he
like,
pulls out
I'm
this
not leaving.
long
I don't care
cord.
if I can't
Yeah.
breathe.
Yeah, it was awesome. So I plugged it in, and then I did another 15 minutes, and yeah, it was a good time. I look forward to going back to that club, whether it be there or in Town Center. What is that? What's the other place?
In Town Square, Town Square.
Town
I
Square.
think it's Town Square, Town Center. Anyways, over. Oh, look, I'm falling off again. Over by the airports, their other club. But Wise Guys was, and you know what I thought about Wise Guys that I really liked is the staff was unbelievable.
The
Very,
staff was
very
so
nice,
nice. Very
very
nice
kind.
staff.
And so, because I was down at the big shows with Lord Bagg, but I've never seen interaction, and there's a lot of interaction in your shows like that. But getting up to plug in the oxygen canister and then giving you the power cord, so the extension cord went right across to the back of the stage. That
Right
was
at the
that
back of
was
the stage.
one for the ages. I saw
I
things this weekend with you I've never seen before, and
it was
along with the drunkest crowd I've ever seen at 7 p.m. on Friday night.
it was fun. It was the fact that somebody's life was in my hands during a show was crazy. I love it.
It's a good time.
So thanks to everybody that came out and seen that show, and thanks for letting me stay
Yeah.
at your house. That was a lot of fun. That's the first time I've performed in Vegas since the golf course during COVID.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that was a good time. And
Your
I
phone
know
is
I'm
trying to get out
struggling
of this.
today. I'm
Yeah.
struggling today.
Well, let's do
but-
some shout outs.
Okay, so let's talk about that barbecue place is on Main Street down Vegas in the kind of the arts district. So if you're going to
Yeah.
Vegas, come see us. Ian might not be there, but great places down.
Great
And
food,
what was
great
that? What
restaurants.
was that across from Wise Guys? What was that bar called?
Ooh,
Ab something.
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know.
it was-
Looked like
but
it was
also
fun. We didn't go over
the
there, but
the pizza place that I ordered the staff pizza that night, and then we also got meatballs and salads and a couple other things. That place was good too. That was something Big Pie or something, Big Pie
Yeah.
pizza.
Yeah.
That was really good.
come to
Anyways,
Vegas
yeah.
and okay, so
And
go ahead with the shout outs.
go to Vegas and get off the strip. That's if I can say that, to like do the strip things, but also get off and go see, like there's amazing stuff to do there. My shout out is to who's my shout out to? My shout out is to I'll shout it out to Brian Almy, who put up with us last week not doing a show, and filled in and put a little video up for us last week.
Oh,
And
did he? I thought maybe he just did the show.
yeah, but he could do the show because you don't need
He
any
should do the
facts.
show.
You don't
Yeah.
need any facts to do the show. So anyways, yeah, big shout out to them.
Okay,
You?
I thought you said you had two.
No, it was two things I wanted to talk about. But not
Okay,
shout outs.
just a shout out to Leo and Jean O'Brien, my uncle's brother and sister-in-law. And Jean is Jean or Jeannie. That's how it's spelt. But it's the French way of saying Jean, I guess. So Jean. They're taking care of my aunt and uncle, or my uncle right now, and my aunt. And so we were up with them last week. And so I want to give a shout out to them because we needed some angels to come into our life, and they came in and are helping out. I know my uncle is Leo's brother, but just the same, when you can help out family, there's no better thing in the world to do. So anyways, a quick shout out to them. And That's all I got this week. It was a fun weekend. We did a lot.
That's pretty good.
We'll have to do another one of these so we can talk some more about our weekend in Vegas.
Hold on. Before you go, I forgot about this. The reason we didn't do this while I was in Vegas was, and shout out to Jeff Sharples for doing the pregame show for the Golden Knights on the television station there. You're really good at it. I'm going to say it right now. He probably doesn't want to hear it, but he does the pregame. Him and Darren, you do it with Darren Elliott, right?
Yeah, Darren. Yeah, because Mallard was on the shelf. Yeah,
and you were fantastic at it. Yeah, top notch. Good, congratulations. I know you enjoy doing it, but you don't like hearing that you're good at it. But you're really good at it, Jeff. You have so much knowledge. And if you ever have a chance, watch a hockey game with Jeff. He's got so much knowledge. There's nobody better to watch a hockey game with. And he's fun. He's fun. So I hope this is my shout out is to the Golden Knights for giving you those opportunities, and I hope they continue on because you're really, really good at it. Loved all.
loved all.